use some of the holy books and then some of the wisdoms or maybe some of their own measures to counsel you, to give you the best advice they can spiritually and to pray for you. I mean, we're not discountenancing that. We're not against that. But we are saying that, look, beyond just word therapy, because if you have fracture right now, I can just pray for you and pray away that fracture. I can just counsel you or maybe counsel you and then I can tell you, okay, fine, the fracture is going to be fine. You're going to come over it. It's a broken bone, and the same way, right? If we the same way approach and care for the physical health, let's not take, with glove. Let's not treat it with our soft glove hands, right? The issue of mental health is critical. The issue of mental health affects the average productivity of anybody.
They prayed with me. They encouraged me. The pastor was always there to, they're really busy, but then he always made out time to speak with me, and I guess that helped a great deal. Having people who would drop what they were doing whenever I needed them to talk to me. So it really helped.
We have spirituality, which is an important tool for a lot of people, who are dealing with mood disorders like depression. But you also have science. You have studies based on research that shows that medical counseling, that is a specialty like cognitive behavioral therapy, like supportive psychotherapy, like multi-systems family therapy. These are all methods that have been studied extensively through science that have been found to be very effective for mood disorders. And so, what I'm advocating is that people generally should be aware of all these instruments, all these tools, all these help that is available. So you can now decide, okay, I need a little bit more spirituality today. Maybe tomorrow I need some medical counseling, either a bit of medication or cognitive behavioral therapy. So it's to empower people to know what they need when they need it, versus just saying spirituality is the only tool I have and everything that I do, or even though there's medical science backing these other treatments, I'll only stick to spirituality.
Incidentally, the opportunities that bring in numerous groups who now manage depression outside the recognized professionals were not created by these groups, but of a systematic failure which is more pronounced. These failures are majorly seen as barriers, such as lack of resources, social stigma associated with mental disorder, and lack of trained health care providers. The shortage of experts in handling mental disorder is an age-long barrier. Now, this is more so in the ratio of psychiatrists and clinical psychologists to the projected 200 million population in the country, where few professionals are seen attending to a large number of mental disordered patients. People with depression can be restored to normal life, but it's not something that can be done by those affected. It therefore means that efforts should be geared towards involving close associates to assist the victims.
When I got to that moment, I realized that, I had to reach out to the church, reach out to my pastor, to my parents, to my friends. It's just let them in through on the things I was going through. And in fact, social media helped a good deal. Like, I posted what I was going through that moment, and, the inflow of love was just overwhelming. So it helped a lot that when some people saw that I have been bold enough to come out and say that, it's even more people started sharing their experiences. So it became a kind of therapy that period. It just wasn't then about only me, but then I found out that it was an avenue that others could, so reaching out, you'd be surprised, by reaching out, it would give others courage to also, face their fears.
Inform my parents about this. So I have to travel back home. I told my parents this is what I'm passing through. Say, don't worry, with prayers you can overcome it. It's one of those things that used to happen in life. For me, that having people call me bold and brave for doing something like that at my lowest, seemed to help. So I know people would think social media is a bullying tool, it's bad, but
in that point in my life, it was a big plus. You know, having a community that would rally around me and then support me. Yeah.
So I was like, God, what's happening to me? I think I need to go back home and inform my parents about this. So I have to travel back home. I told my parents this is what I'm passing through. Say, don't worry, with prayers you can overcome it. It's one of those things that used to happen in life.
I have a friend, you know, I have a very close friend of mine, just one. And I went and I discussed, I said, look at what is happening to me. Initially, I started to, keep it to myself. But when I could not bear it anymore, because I was just going down, I saw myself going down every minute, thinking of how to, end it all. But this person, my very close friend, like that, a young man, and just himself, and I can always, whatever comes from him, I know that this person will just tell me the truth. So when I got to him, I said, met him, and I discovered, poured out my heart to him, and then he came up with advice and solution, and then I started picking up.
Most of the time it's not the person that realizes that they're depressed. It's the family members that notice that, or the close friends notice that the behavior of the person has changed. The person is withdrawing, the person is not sleeping, not eating or eating too much, sleeping too much, low energy, never interested in participating in family activities, and so, there may be something strange about the person's behavior. So that's usually what will happen. And the first step is to get an assessment, right? For you to treat a problem, you have to understand the nature of that problem. There are different types of depression. You need to be able to categorize it. You need to find out what are the triggers, what is the situation in this person's life that's making them more vulnerable to depression. Are they dealing with loss? Do they need grief counseling? Are they dealing with a stressful life event? Is there a death in the family? Are they having a medical problem? Is it undiagnosed cancer in their body that's making them depressed? So you have to have a full evaluation. You have to document the exact nature of the depression, the precipitating factors, the perpetuating factors. After that, then you can know what kind of treatment is best for the individual, whether it's a combination of psychotherapy, which is medical counseling and medication, or you want to start with psychotherapy alone, for a while, and then add on medication for a short period of time, or maybe for longer, depending on the duration of depression, whether it's a first episode or a second episode or subsequent episode of depression. So these are some of the things, but the first thing is the assessment.
Julian was in between life and death as she spent days in the hospital bed to gain her life back.
Because what happened was that I fell in coma at a national hospital. I just found myself, when I regained my consciousness, I found that I was on hospital bed, national hospital. I was like, I asked people around that, what's happening, what's wrong with me? They said, thank God, so you can talk now for March, April, May, June, July to July. I was like, please, what's today's date? What's just happened to me? They said I shouldn't worry, that the doctors will come back to me and explain to me. Then when they came, I was like, oh, wow. So finally I can respond back to treatment and all that. So thank God for my life. So I started asking everybody, please, what happened to me? I said, okay, now actually the doctors couldn't say this is what was really wrong with me. That maybe because I have an emotional, I don't know, so it led to me being in coma. I was in intensive care unit, and I think we were like 3 in the intensive care unit. So 2 died, but I was just fortunate. I was privileged. God's grace helped me. But I just want to tell you that was what I passed through.
She was lucky to have survived her case through the efforts of her loved ones and early treatment. Now she lives a normal life, but the experience of all that she went through will never be forgotten. The pains and trauma depressed persons go through are better experienced than imagined. And in most scenarios, the society seems not to tag along with them, hence the urge to commit suicide sets in. But early detection and diagnosis will go a long way in bringing individuals back to their original lives.
Niger, your love guest.
I do believe in love at first sight.
I just think it's not possible.
You know, as a man, you're moved by what you see.
My love at first sight is a mental connection.
Personally, don't want someone really shorter than I am.
Guys really don't pick up on things like that sometimes, and I'm guys.
My goal, is to find love.
I just like them average, light skin.
My move button is just showing me too much love.
You might be the most beautiful woman in the world, but if your nails are not straight and clean, I ain't doing with you.
Bad breath, bad odors of any kind.
I'm the mumu naturally, so...
I'll be gone. I'll be a mumu for life.
I love attention, maybe food.
I want to try again. If a woman is like my heaven, like she gives me peace, I'm good.
I was at the point of getting married, or my dad didn't approve of the relationship.
With me, my man.
I want someone that's a little bit taller than I am and muscular.
I think you actually have to know a person to a certain degree before you say you're in love with them.
We must bear in mind the condition the country is now. Coronavirus is affecting what we so much depend on, petroleum industry and therefore revenue. So please let us be patriotic.
In the face of the coronavirus threat to the economy, reconsider your demands. President Buhari appeals to health workers. Niger Delta Development Commission gets 11-man advisory committee to fast-track federal government's plan for sustainable peace, security and infrastructural development. Aftermath of transition in Kano Emirate, mood in Kano as Emir Aminu Ado meets the people.
No matter what platform, what television station you are, if you don't have content, there's no reason to be there.
Plus, towards seamless digitization, broadcasters converge, upgrading content for digital platforms on the minds. Good evening and welcome to the Network News at 9. I am Kena Ima Abodike. Reading with me from Lagos and Ibadan are Dotun Ogunyemi and Kemi Akiwode. An 11-man advisory committee has been inaugurated by President Muhammadu Buhari for the Niger Delta Development Commission. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports that this is in furtherance of the administration's new vision for the area as well as a policy thrusts for achieving sustainable peace, security, infrastructure and human capital development in the region. We seem to have a little problem at that, but we'll bring that one later. Let's now tell you that President Muhammadu Buhari has noted with pride the achievements of Nigerian women in different fields of endeavor. This was while granting audience to the president of the Medical Women's International Association, Dr. Elinor Nwadinobi. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo now reports. We sincerely want to apologize for the mix-up at the moment. It's now for us to join Lagos Network Center for reports on the network news tonight.
Welcome to Lagos. The Minister of State for Health, Senator Olonibe Mamora, says the federal government is unrelenting in the pursuit and adoption of measures aimed at curbing the spread of the coronavirus. He made this known at a conference on improving health with innovations, technology and sustainable financing in Lagos. Hingidun John Adams reports.
Following the outbreak of the COVID-19 strain of coronavirus, key players in the health sector the world over have been working tirelessly to contain the spread of the virus, which has claimed many lives in several countries. This gathering in Lagos is one of many by medical experts. The approach is brainstorming on effective ways to expand the scope of medical research in Nigeria, as innovations and new technologies for treatment are not realizable without adequate financial backing.
You do have healthy, quote-unquote, healthy carriers who remain asymptomatic. That is, they don't manifest any symptoms. So that may compel us to change our strategy, that maybe as many contacts that have been established with the index case, we may have to test all of them.
Healthcare can be delivered to people in rural areas, in communities and villages without building big hospitals. We don't need big hospitals again, but we need big innovations.
The medical experts are optimistic of a transformed health sector in Nigeria, given the renewed zeal by stakeholders to embrace mainstream ways of preventing and treating diseases. In Lagos, Hingino John Adams, NTA News.
Now that Nigeria has 2 cases of the novel coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, to deal with, port managers have put in place several measures to avoid the spread of the virus from the seaports. This was the target at a sensitization meeting between officials and terminal operators, as well as other key players in the sector. Imola Yotukide has details.
Nation's ports are major entry points for goods and persons into the country. And like the international airports, the virus could be brought in through the ports from other countries. This is why key players are meeting to discuss comprehensively on global best practices to be implemented to tackle the virus.
We deem it fit that there's need for us to discuss what we have done, what we have put in place, and of course what is expected of the terminal operators for them to be able to curtail this menace.
Part of the recommendations include frequent use of hand sanitizers, face masks, temperature screening machines, and hand washing stations at all entry points. The setting up of isolation center to attend to emergencies at the port is also in the making.
Before COVID, there would have been just one yellow flag. But with COVID, we are now saying 2 yellow flags so that you are alerting everybody that there is a suspected case on board, and that will now, alert the Port Health as well as our pilots that are going on.
The Nigerian Ports Authority is appealing for more collaboration with other agencies to ensure the seaports are free of the virus, tasking terminal operators to report any suspected cases by calling these emergency numbers. In Lagos, Imola Yotukide, NTA News.
And those are the reports from Lagos. It's now back to Kene in Abuja for the continuation of the news.
Thank you, Dotun. We now join Kemi Akiwonde for more on the network news tonight.
Thank you, Kene, and welcome to Ibadan. Assistant Inspector General of Police Zone 11, Bashir Makama, says traditional institutions should support the police in the business of combating crime. He stated this while on a walking visit to police formations in the zone. Rafi Animashan Badmus has the details.
AIG Zone 11 Bashir Makama, who was warmly received by the people of Oyo State, is on familiarization tour to relate with officers and key players in security sector and also to interact, interface, identify grey areas for prompt and adequate intervention. He said, policing is a collective responsibility, hence the need for community content to combat the enormous security challenges.
That we cannot do alone. We also require members of the public to come round so that we can work together.
The Assistant Inspector General of Police later visited the Olubadan of Ibadan land, Oba Soliu Adetunji Aje Ogunguniso, the Alaafin of Oyo, Oba Lamidi Adeyemi, and the Shaun of Ogbomosho land, Oba Jimoh Oyewumi, where he stressed the need for traditional institutions to play vital roles in security of the land. In Ibadan, Rofia Animashan Badmos, NTA News.
Oyo State government is leaving no stone unturned on measures to guard against the spread of coronavirus to the state. The State Commissioner for Health and other key players spoke on these measures. Rofia Animashan Badmos again reports.
The reported index case of coronavirus in Nigeria has no doubt put all states in the country, Oyo inclusive, on their toes to ensure the virus is contained. Key players in medical professions say all hands are on deck and the state is on red alert to prevent the outbreak of coronavirus.
Why we are very, very, very prepared, because no one can say, freedom of movement is enshrined in the Constitution. We cannot for this reason start, restricting movement of individuals.
I have a committee called UCH Emergency Response Committee that is training all our staff in batches. Last week I signed over 200 certificates for those who have already completed the training, and the training continues.
A visit to schools and public institutions in Ibadan reveals that prompt intervention to checkmate any form of disease and personal hygiene is being upscaled.
We emphasize on ways that this disease could be contacted.
The young ones are well protected by not exposing them unnecessarily.
Findings in Ibadan Metropolis show some level of compliance of personal hygiene in private and public schools, organizations, and individual preventive measures to combat coronavirus in Oyo State. In Ibadan, Rofia Animashan Badmos, NTA News.
And that's it from here. Kenneth, back to you.
Thank you, Kemi. We'd like to apologize for the hitches we experienced earlier on the onset of the news, as we now tell you that an 11-man advisory committee has been inaugurated by President Muhammadu Buhari for the Niger Delta Development Commission. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports that this is in furtherance of the administration's new vision for the area, as well as a policy thrust for achieving sustainable peace, security, infrastructure, and human capital development in the region.
From the 9 governors of the Niger Delta region, membership of the advisory committee for the NDDC also comprises 2 presidential nominees, Minister of the Niger Delta Affairs as well as that of Environment. Inaugurating the committee in line with the provisions of Section 11, Subsection 1 of the NDDC Establishment Act, President Muhammadu Buhari described as unacceptable that the people of the Niger Delta region were left with abundant infrastructural projects and substandard social programs designed to improve their living conditions.
To date, the EFCC and other agencies of government have recovered over 3.7 billion naira in cash, as well as various assets worth billions of naira from some contractors and some directors of the Commission. Furthermore, I am told that government agencies have placed liens on over 6 billion naira of assets which are being investigated. These abuses of the past clearly show the need for strict and diligent oversight going forward.
The inauguration of the advisory committee ahead of the reconstitution of the NDDC board, the president said, is to enable government develop insights into the affairs of the commission, which will properly guide the board when reconstituted after the ongoing forensic audit exercise.
I therefore want to urge this advisory committee to discharge its responsibility diligently and effectively, working closely with the ministry. My new assignment requires selfless service to our people in the Niger Delta. I look forward to seeing positive changes in the affairs of the Commission as well as on the ground in the Niger Delta region.
The committee is charged with the responsibility of advising the board and monitoring its activities. Governor Ifeanyi Okowa of Delta State, who spoke on behalf of the committee, assured President Muhammadu Buhari of effective collaboration and cooperation in the best interests of the Niger Delta region and the nation's economy.
The cooperation between the states and the NDDC has not been strengthened over time, and we have seen various cases of duplication of projects and projects that possibly are not properly planned. But I believe that with the inauguration of this body, we will now be able to sit down, meet together, work in collaboration and supportively to bring greater development and developments that are more sustainable to our people, thereby reducing the pressures that the federal government would have from the peoples of the Niger Delta.
It will be recalled that in February this year, President Muhammadu Buhari approved the reconstitution of a 10-man presidential monitoring committee chaired by the Minister of the Niger Delta Affairs, Godswill Akpabio, to monitor the operations and activities of the commission. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Of course, we earlier tried to tell you that President Muhammadu Buhari has noted with pride the achievements of Nigerian women in different fields of endeavor. This was while granting audience to the President of the Medical Women's International Association, Dr. Elena Nwadinobi. State House correspondent at the Musambo again reports.
Dr. Eleanor Nwadinobi, a Nigerian, is the first African woman to be elected president of the 100-year-old body of medical women operating in over 90 countries of the world.
I take this opportunity to congratulate you, Dr. Nwadinobi, and all your colleagues for your successes, as I pray for many more years of accomplishments.
The story of Dr. Nwadinobi's career and accomplishments thus far, President Buhari said, is a thing of pride to Nigeria and must be celebrated.
I will therefore ask Dr. Nwadinobi and all members of the Medical Women's Association to continue to be role models for our younger sisters and daughters. With the right encouragement, support, and guidance, our women folk can equal the achievements of other women anywhere.
Mr. President, your Nigerian women are making waves. God is blessing your women to stand out, not just in Nigeria, but the world over. We are fully committed to the three cardinal points of your administration: fighting corruption, improving the economy, and making sure that the security issues are properly addressed. Women are the mothers of the insurgents. If we put women in the center stage, even on security matters, we will get better results.
The President, Medical Women's International Association, Dr. Eleanor Nwadinobi, had told President Buhari that her election has not only honored Nigeria, but also aligned with his administration in stepping up to the next level. She said Nigeria now has the strongest voice in the Medical Women's International Association and can also be a strategic and dependable partner in transforming women's health indices.
We commend Your Excellency greatly for the efforts of the Nigerian government towards protecting Nigerians from the coronavirus, alias COVID-19. Our prayer is that in the same way that we set a good example for the entire globe in the handling of Ebola, that we will also overcome and contain the coronavirus. Our female doctors, some of the very best in this very room, have been sensitized and mobilized to support all health intervention, and as women, we do so, as our motto says, with the love of a mother.
During the event, President Muhammadu Buhari was decorated as the champion of women in the country. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
President Muhammadu Buhari has appealed to workers in the nation's health sector to bear with the federal government in their demand as it braces for the challenges posed by coronavirus to the economy. The president made the appeal when the Joint Health Sector Union as well as the Assembly of Healthcare Professionals paid him a courtesy visit. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo once again completes the story.
Officials of the nation's health sector workers were in the State House to formally appreciate the Buhari presidency for the proactive measures taken towards containing COVID-19, assenting to the Health Sector Act, as well as resisting the clamor for privatization of the health sector, which would have deprived the masses of access to affordable health care. And in furtherance of his commitment to dialogue towards ensuring stability and growth of the health sector, Johesu, as the union is called, used the opportunity to intimate the president of some lingering public health matters and welfare challenges for consideration. This, according to the union's national chairman, includes adjustment of consolidated health salary structure, withheld April and May 2018 salaries of members, gazetting of scheme of service for nurses, restoration of teaching allowances, as well as the need to nip in the bud the imminent drug scarcity in the country occasioned by coronavirus.
So we are here, sir, to say that you help us get those very patriotic sons and daughters of this country, very patriotic health workers, to be recommitted, to be re-energized to manage the health system better for Nigerians.
President Muhammadu Buhari, who appreciated the health workers for their show of support and understanding, assured them of government's commitment towards looking into their issues conscientiously with a view to resolving them.
Your case will certainly receive attention, but we must bear in mind the condition the country is now. Coronavirus is affecting what we so much depend on, petroleum industry and therefore revenue. So please let us be patriotic.
President Buhari also called on the visitors to appeal to the patriotic sentiments of their members and indeed other Nigerians in these trying times and continue to work for further development of the country.
It's very important we maintain cohesion. If we allow sentiment or popularity to overwhelm our reasoning faculties, we will be in trouble, and it will be maybe too late for us to adjust.
The Nigerian leader used the opportunity to stress that his administration's successful drive for food security in the last 4 years will definitely come in handy with a drop in government revenue. Members of the joint health sector unions were led to the State House by the Minister of Health, Dr. Osage Ihanere, as well as his labor and employment counterpart, Dr. Chris Ngige. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Ahead in the news, 15th Emir of Kano meets the people as the post-Emir, Muhammadu Sanusi, arrives in new abode. Stay with us.
Oya, take. Madam Ibo.